Alright, so here's a little story I never thought I'd be the guy telling. You know the kind. You're scrolling Reddit, see a post like, caught my wife with the Uber driver, and you think, yeah, that's nuts, but that had never happened to me. Well, surprise. It happened. To me. And buddy, buckle up, because it gets worse. My wife, let's call her Melissa, never really liked driving. Said it stressed her out. Fair enough. I figured, hey, we live in a city, rideshare is everywhere, what's the harm? At first, it was practical. Grocery runs, appointments, the occasional girls' night out. Totally normal. Then she got comfortable with this one driver. His name was Kyle. I know this now. At the time, I didn't know Kyle from a can of paint. Melissa just kept referring to him as the same guy, or this really chill driver she always happened to match with. Weird, sure, but hey, I've read enough conspiracy forums to know when you start doubting every coincidence, you end up building a tinfoil hat. Looking back, there were signs. Always are, right? She started dressing up more just to run errands. Her phone suddenly had more notifications, more group chats. I remember joking once, you seeing someone? Or just trying to impress the Uber guy? She laughed. Said, please, he's like 22. I'm practically his aunt. Yeah, an aunt with benefits, apparently. The thing is, we didn't have kids. Just us two. So we had time too much of it, maybe. She started going on longer rides. Once said she was going to the market and came back 4 hours later with 2 lemons and a story about traffic. Traffic must have taken her all the way through a Netflix rom-com arc. But still, I didn't suspect much. I was working long hours, not really keeping track of her day-to-day. I trusted her. She had this way of brushing things off with a laugh and some passive-aggressive sparkle. You know the type. Anyway, a few weeks before things went nuclear, I noticed she started using Uber for everything, even for places within walking distance. Said it was convenient. I said she was turning into a suburban Kardashian. Don't be dramatic, she said. Kyle's just really reliable. Kyle. That was the first time she said his name. It sounded too casual, like she'd said it 100 times before and only just remembered I wasn't supposed to know it. I let it slide. I figured, okay, maybe they talk a lot during rides, whatever. People get chatty in cars. Lord knows I've overshared with enough bartenders. But something started nagging at me. Little stuff. Like how she started looking at her phone and smiling a little too long. Or how she suddenly had this playlist she called for the ride. Yeah, okay. Sure. I didn't press. That's on me. I kept telling myself it was harmless. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious husband who starts checking her location like some insecure teenager. But you know what they say, when the ride feels too smooth, check the driver. So after the Kyle's just reliable moment, I started noticing things with fresh eyes. Not that anything dramatic happened overnight, it was still the same house, the same routines. But once your gut tells you something's off, you start seeing patterns everywhere. That playlist I mentioned? Yeah, turns out it had titles like Late Night Vibes and Cruisin' with My Favorite Person. I saw it pop up on our shared Spotify. Now, I'm no genius, but I'm also not completely brain dead. Melissa never listened to that kind of music with me. I'm a podcast and classic rock guy. But suddenly, she's vibing to moody R&B and indie tracks that sound like the soundtrack to a low-budget romance movie. Who's your favorite person? I asked her one evening, real casual-like, nodding at the playlist title. She laughed. Don't be weird. It's just a name. I like the aesthetic. The aesthetic. Right. Nothing says innocent like curating a musical love letter and naming it like a teenage Tumblr post. But again, I didn't accuse her. I wasn't ready for that. Instead, I started paying attention. One Friday, she left for a Target run. I saw her Uber app open before she walked out. Guess who picked her up? Yep, Kyle. 5-star Kyle. I know because the notification came through her iPad, which was still connected to our Wi-Fi. Bless that sync feature. 30 minutes passed. Then an hour. Then 2. She came back with a single throw pillow and a story about running into an old friend and grabbing coffee. Said they lost track of time. Who was the friend? I asked. Oh, just someone from high school. You wouldn't know her. Her. Uh-huh. And here's the thing. I almost believed her. Almost. She was good. Like Oscar nomination good. But when she told the story, she paused just a little too long between sentences. Like she was buffering the lie before streaming it out loud. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who snoops. I never checked her messages, never went through her purse, never tailed her like some rejected detective from a soap opera. But something was pulling at me. So I checked her Uber ride history. Target was 15 minutes away. She was gone for 2.5 hours. Her drop-off point? Not a Target. It was in a residential area 10 minutes past it. So I asked, calmly, hey, Why did your Uber drop you off on 14th and Glenwood instead of Target? She froze. Not dramatically, not with a gasp, but just enough. Like her body forgot to keep acting for a second. Then came the lie. Oh, that's where I met up with her. It was just easier to meet there. Her house is nearby. Her house. I repeated. Yeah, she was babysitting. And here's the wild part. I almost gave her a pass. That's how convincing she was. If you didn't know her, you'd think she was just forgetful. But I did know her. And Melissa? She doesn't forget anything. She's got a memory like a courtroom stenographer. But I let it ride. Just for now. Because something told me the truth was about to show up. And probably in the same silver Toyota Camry she couldn't stop smiling about. So now I'm sitting on a little pile of coincidences. A playlist with vibe. A recurring driver with a name that suddenly gets dropped in casual conversation. Ride logs that don't match destinations. And my wife, Melissa, getting more glamorous for Target than she ever did for date night with me. Still, I didn't blow up. No yelling. No passive-aggressive texts. I played it cool, like the overly patient protagonist in a slow-burn thriller. The kind where you're yelling at the screen like, come on, man, do something. Instead, I started observing. You'd be amazed how much intel you can gather just by asking seemingly dumb questions. So, does Uber let you favorite a driver or something? I asked one morning over breakfast, casually, as she scrolled through her phone. She looked up like a deer in headlights, which she immediately tried to play off as, oh, I forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer panic. I think so, she said, pouring coffee. I don't know. I don't really pay attention. Lies. She paid attention to everything. Melissa was the kind of person who sorted the spice rack alphabetically and scheduled me time into her calendar. And now she suddenly doesn't know how the app works? I nodded, sipping my coffee. I just figured you must be tipping really well to keep getting the same guy. She laughed. I guess Kyle just works this area a lot. Kyle. There he was again. The name she said too easily, like he was a barista or someone's golden retriever. Not the dude chauffeuring her around town while I sat at home rewatching The Office like a clueless sitcom husband. That's when I decided to test a theory. I created a burner Uber account, new phone number, new email, the whole deal. I wanted to see if Kyle really just worked the area, or if maybe he worked her area, if you catch my drift. I started requesting Ubers during the same time block she usually rode, late mornings, mid-afternoons. Always within the same neighborhood. And not once, did Kyle show up for me. But for Melissa? He was somehow always around. I'd hear the ping from her phone, your ride is on the way. Kyle is arriving in 5 minutes. And then she'd smile. I mean really smile, like she was about to be reunited with a long-lost friend. Or, the man she was seeing behind my back. Still, I didn't say anything. Why? Because I wanted to catch her clean. No denials. No gaslighting. No, you're just paranoid jabs. I wanted her to walk herself right into the trap, heels clicking, lip gloss shining, playlist queued up. And oh, she was on her way there. The only question was, where was he taking her? I was about to find out. All right, so at this point I've gone from slightly concerned husband to amateur sleuth with a PhD in rideshare surveillance. The Spotify playlist, the familiar driver, the phony drop-off points, it was all there. I just needed to see it with my own 2 eyes. So, like any man teetering between denial and revelation, I made a plan. First, I borrowed my buddy Dave's car. He's got this old Honda Civic with a cracked taillight and absolutely no personality, perfect for blending in. Thanks, Dave, wherever you are. I still owe you wings and probably emotional closure. I waited until Melissa said she was going to run errands again. Sure enough, about 15 minutes before her ride, she started doing her makeup. You ever seen a woman put on highlighter just to buy toilet paper? Yeah, me neither. I pretended I had a meeting, gave her a kiss on the cheek and told her I'd be working late. She gave me that smile. The one that now felt more like a smokescreen than a gesture of love. Then the Uber notification popped up. Kyle was en route. Perfect. I slipped out the back, hopped into Dave's Civic, and parked at the end of the street like a weird neighbor with nothing better to do. I watched as Kyle's silver Camry pulled up. He didn't even honk. Melissa just floated out the door like Cinderella headed to the ball, except the carriage was a mid-2010s Toyota and the prince was wearing a baseball cap backward. She got in. They pulled off. I followed. Now, I wasn't tailing like some movie spy with gadgets and earpieces. No, I was 10 car lengths back, white-knuckling the steering wheel, praying I didn't accidentally get stuck at a red light and blow the whole operation. They drove past Target. No surprise there. Past the coffee shop, past the park. They ended up in a cul-de-sac I didn't recognize, quiet, older houses, trees that looked like they'd heard a few neighborhood secrets. They parked. They didn't get out. The car stayed there. Parked. Engine running. 10 minutes. 15. Then the window's fogged. Fogged? I don't know if you've ever sat in a borrowed Civic watching your wife fog up someone else's Uber, but let me tell you, there is no playlist moody enough to soundtrack that moment. That's when I realized this wasn't just some emotional affair or overly chatty driver situation. This was physical, real, and happening on a weekday afternoon like it was just another errand between lunch and laundry. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I just sat there, watching the steam rise, feeling like the dumbest genius in the world. The moment she got dropped off later, she came home with a CVS bag, and the biggest lie of all, I couldn't find the paper towels I wanted. Sweetheart, I'm sure you were very busy cleaning something else. But I didn't say a word. Not that day. Because now I wasn't just watching. I was waiting. So after the great fogged-up Camry incident, I was done pretending everything was fine. But I still wasn't ready to go full courtroom drama. Not yet. Instead, I went with something a little more subtle. I started asking gentle questions, the kind you use to lure out a lie and watch it trip over itself. She came home one afternoon, cheeks flushed like she'd jogged through a field of lies and regret. CVS bag in hand, again. I was sitting on the couch, acting like I hadn't just watched her make out in a parked car with a man who makes $1.37 a mile. Hey, I said casually, so this Kyle guy. You ride with him a lot, huh? She froze for half a second. Just a flicker. Like her brain skipped a beat trying to update the script. Yeah, I guess so, she said. Way too breezy. He's just reliable. You two get along? She shrugged. He's nice. We talk sometimes. It's not weird. Oh yeah. I tilted my head. What do you guys talk about? And this is where she went off the rails. Oh, you know, life stuff. Goals. He's in school, actually. I've been helping him study for his GED. His GED. I blinked. Wait, you're helping him study? Yeah, she said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. He's trying to get his life together. I'm just being supportive. In the back of my head, I'm screaming, supportive? Lady, you're tutoring this man with your lips and thighs, not a whiteboard and flashcards. But I just nodded. Well, you're like Uber with benefits. She didn't laugh. Just stared at me for a second too long, then muttered something about taking a shower. That was the moment I knew she knew I knew something. Because that was the day she turned on the gaslight. Over the next week, she started being overly sweet. Making me coffee. Asking about my day. Suggesting we spend more quality time together. Guilt gift wrapped in fake affection. But here's the thing. Once you've seen someone through a steamed-up car window, no amount of coffee or candlelight is going to make you forget what you saw. She didn't realize I was building a case. Quietly, carefully. Screenshots, ride logs, even the playlist. She thought she was winning. But Kyle wasn't the only one learning something. I was learning too. And the final exam? That was coming real soon. So at this point, Melissa's walking on eggshells, and I'm pretending not to notice. She's got this whole step forward wife act going, cooking dinners she hasn't made in years, laughing at jokes I know aren't funny, asking me if I've been stressed at work lately. Cute. I play along, smile, nod, tell her the lasagna's great. It wasn't, it was frozen. Meanwhile, I'm watching everything. Then one night, a Tuesday, she says she's going out, just for a bit. CVS again. I swear, if that drugstore had a loyalty program, she'd have platinum status by now. But this time, something tells me to follow her again. Not just wait and ask questions after, actually follow. So I do. Different car this time, my brother's. More subtle. Parked a block away. She doesn't see me. I watch as Kyle picks her up. Same silver Camry. She gets in wearing jeans and a jacket, real casual, like she's just running errands. They don't go to CVS. They drive to a parking lot behind an old strip mall. Closed shops, dim streetlights, nobody around. I pull in a few spots behind, lights off, engine low. And I watch. They don't talk much. Because they're busy. His hand's on her leg within a minute. Then her head's on his shoulder. Then things escalate. I won't go into detail, but let's just say there wasn't much studying going on unless he had a pop quiz hidden in her bra. After about 20 minutes, they drive off again, straight back home. No stops. Not even a fake CVS bag this time. She walks in like she's just stepped out for milk. I'm at the kitchen table. Hey, I say. CVS not have what you needed? She blinks. No, they were out of the good toothpaste. I say. You were gone a while. And here it comes, the lie, fresh out of the oven. Oh, I gave Kyle a ride home, she says. He lives kind of far. I lean back in my chair, arms crossed. Funny, I thought Uber drivers were the ones giving you the ride. She stares at me, dead silent. I can see the gears turning, trying to come up with the next excuse, the next deflection, the next half-truth with just enough sugar to make it seem digestible. But nothing comes out. Just, why are you asking so many weird questions lately? And there it was, the shift. The guilt flaring into defensiveness. That's how you know the lie's on life support. I shrugged. Just curious. You've been acting kinda different. But hey, if you say it was just toothpaste and a friendly ride, who am I to question that? She forced a laugh. Exactly. Stop being dramatic. But I saw the tremble in her hand when she reached for her phone. She was losing control of the narrative. And when people like Melissa lose control, they do something stupid. Something really stupid. Which brings us to part 7, where Kyle decides to show up. At my house. And man, I wish I was kidding. So it's the weekend. Melissa's acting unusually chipper, like she's just had a spa day for her conscience. She's baking banana bread, playing music in the background, humming like she's the poster girl for domestic bliss. Me? I'm pretending to care about football while waiting for the emotional demolition crew to show up. Then, right around 2 p.m., doorbell rings. She freezes mid-hum. I look over. She's staring at the front door like it just spoke Latin. I walk over and open it. There he is. Kyle. Kyle is, well, exactly what you think. Late 20s. Scruffy beard that says, I don't own a real razor. Hoodie. Ball cap turned backward. Leaning against the doorframe with the confidence of a guy who thinks he's auditioning for The Bachelor. Discount edition. He smiles. Hey, man. I'm Kyle. Yeah. No intro. No explanation. Just that. Behind me, I hear Melissa drop something. A spoon. Maybe. Whatever it was, the sound echoed like a bomb in the silence that followed. I narrow my eyes. I know who you are. He nods like we're about to fist bump. Cool. So, he glances inside. Melissa home? Now, let me pause here and say, there are moments in life where your blood pressure skyrockets, your jaw clenches, and every muscle in your body tightens like you're about to either punch a wall or a guy named Kyle. But I didn't flinch. Didn't raise my voice. I just smiled. Calm. Measured. She is, I said. You want to come in? His eyes lit up. Yeah, sure. He walked inside. Like it was nothing. Melissa appeared around the corner. Pale. Frozen. Banana bread batter still on her hands. Kyle, what are you doing here? He looks at her, all casual. Just thought it was time we stopped sneaking around, you know? I swear I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so dumb it circled back to being impressive. She stammered, you can't just show up like this. He blinked. Why not? He seems cool with it. She turned to me, and that's when she did it. She lied. Again. He's joking, she said. We're just friends. He's messing around. Kyle tilted his head, confused. Wait, what? Melissa. Shut up, Kyle, she snapped. And boom, mask off. That was it. That was the moment I saw who she really was. Not some misunderstood, confused wife. Not some bored house cat looking for excitement. No, she was fully in this, and panicking now that her cover was blown by the world's most clueless side piece. Kyle's eyebrows shot up. Well, okay. This is awkward. Yeah, I said, but not for me. Melissa looked at me like I'd just spoken in tongues. You knew, she whispered. I've known, I said. I've followed you. Watched you. I saw the fogged-up windows. The strip mall. The playlist. The GED story? Really? Kyle muttered. Wait, what GED story? Don't, I said, pointing at him. You've done enough. Melissa tried to regroup. I can explain. I shook my head. You've already explained. With your time, your lies, and your Uber receipts. She stepped toward me. Wait, please, can we talk? Sure, I said. Lawyer's office is open Monday. We'll chat then. Her face broke. Kyle looked like he wanted to melt into the wall. I think you should go, I told him. He left. She stood there, shaking. I walked past her, grabbed my keys, and said, I'm going to get some toothpaste. You know, since you never actually do. And then I left. After Kyle left and I walked out the door behind him, Melissa didn't waste a second. The moment I was out of sight, my phone started buzzing like a Vegas slot machine. She was blowing up my notifications from every possible app, like she was trying to win me back with sheer volume. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because when someone tells you who they are, especially by parking their affair in your driveway, you don't ask follow-up questions. Instead, I sat in a coffee shop across town, watching the flood of messages roll in. They started off predictable, apologies, confusion, desperation. Then they shifted. Guilt turned to pleading. Pleading turned to bargaining. Then the tone changed again, defensive, accusatory, even a little manipulative. She was cycling through every stage of relationship CPR, trying to revive a marriage she'd already buried. The most surreal part was how quickly she moved from remorse to blame. It was like watching someone try to clean up a fire they started with a garden hose, and then scream that the smoke was my fault. In 2 hours, she sent 37 messages. I didn't count them at first, I only noticed when the little notification bubble hit the point where my phone just gave up and said 37 plus. Somewhere in the chaos, she called me 5 times, left voicemails I didn't play, and even emailed me like we were suddenly coworkers. But here's the thing. The more she talked, the more certain I became. None of this was about me. Not really. This was about someone who got caught and couldn't accept that the consequences weren't negotiable. By the time the sun set, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad anymore. I was just done. The kind of done that doesn't yell, doesn't demand explanations, doesn't write long texts back. It just leaves. And that night, I stayed gone. Not because I wanted her to worry, but because I finally stopped worrying about her. I came home the next evening. Not because I missed her, but because I needed to end it to her face. Direct, honest, final. No poetic exit, no long dramatic monologue. Just the truth, straight up. When I walked through the door, she was on the couch with a blanket wrapped around her like she was recovering from emotional hypothermia. Mascara smudged, hair tied up, tissue piled beside her like she was auditioning for a sad movie that no one asked for. She looked up, eyes wide, like she wasn't sure whether to cry harder or pretend nothing had happened. She started talking immediately. No hi. No how are you? Just an avalanche of excuses, half-reasons, and weird metaphors about needing space and losing herself. I let her finish. Every word. Not because I was hoping for something redeeming, but because I needed to hear how far she'd go to avoid taking responsibility. When she finally stopped, I told her calmly, clearly, that I was done. Done with the lies. The manipulation. The betrayal disguised as confusion. Done playing house while she played passenger princess with Kyle the GD case in the backseat of a fogged-up Uber. And that's when the real show started. First came the denial. We can fix this. Then the bargaining. Let's take a break, not a divorce. Then came the insults. You were never really there for me. And then, right on cue, came the hysteria. She started pacing, yelling, crying in staccato bursts like someone trying to fake a panic attack. And then she grabbed a vase, one I bought her from a little roadside market years ago, and hurled it across the room. Shattered against the wall like the last shred of her dignity. I didn't flinch, just watched it happen. Quiet. Solid. Done. She stood there panting, like she expected me to scream back or throw something too. But I didn't. I just picked up the envelope I had brought, divorce papers, already looked over by a lawyer, and set them down on the coffee table like a receipt for all her choices. She stared at them like they were written in fire. You're not serious, she said, voice trembling. I was. She started crying again. The sad kind this time. But I couldn't tell if it was because she lost me, or because she lost control. Maybe both. I told her I'd be staying elsewhere for now, that she could take the weekend to figure out where she wanted to go. I wasn't kicking her out. I was just done hosting. And as I walked out the door, the silence behind me was louder than all the screaming that came before. A few days after I served her the divorce papers and walked out of the house, the tone changed. Again. No more vase throwing. No more yelling. Melissa went full rebrand. Now she was calm, introspective, soft-voiced. Like a woman in a shampoo commercial who just realized what really matters. She called me. Left a voicemail, voice trembling just the right amount, asking if I would consider couples therapy. She texted the next day with a screenshot of a local therapist profile and said, even just one session. I didn't answer right away. Not because I was tempted. I wasn't. But because I was curious just how far she'd go now that the runway was gone and the plane had already crashed. A few hours later, another message rolled in. This one was longer. Said she realized she had abandoned the emotional foundation of our marriage. Talked about childhood issues. Said she acted out. Called Kyle a distraction like she'd accidentally clicked on him during a pop-up ad and couldn't figure out how to close the window. What she never said. I'm sorry I betrayed you. I understand why you're leaving. I was wrong. Nah. Instead, it was. I think we should try to rebuild. We owe it to the years we've had. You're still my best friend. It's amazing how the idea of a best friend never came up when she was parked behind a strip mall making out with someone who probably didn't know how to spell monogamy. So I finally replied. Short. To the point. I told her counseling isn't for couples where one person already packed their bags emotionally and left the other behind in the driveway. It's not for fixing affairs that were never confessed, just caught. It's not for teaching someone how not to cheat with the guy they ordered a ride from. She left that message on read. Didn't respond for 2 days. Then I got one last text. Not an apology. Not a goodbye. Just, you're throwing away something that could have been saved. I didn't reply. Because I wasn't the one who threw it away. I just stopped pretending it was still there. After the counseling plea flopped, and that last dramatic text came through, I got quiet. Not emotionally. I mean logistically. I hired a lawyer. A good one. Not a TV commercial, local jingle kind of guy. This one had a reputation for being polite in person and ruthless on paper. We met in his office. I laid it all out. The affair. The timeline. The Uber receipts. The fact that we had no kids, no shared business, and thankfully, no weird emotional furniture, like pets or matching tattoos. Clean separation, as far as divorce logistics go. And you know what? That lawyer actually laughed when I told him the GED excuse. Said it was the most budget-season soap opera thing he'd ever heard. Within a week, paperwork was moving. I had the house. My name was on everything. She'd barely worked the last couple years, said she was figuring things out, but somehow always had time for Monty Python and midday rides to nowhere. I wasn't trying to ruin her life. I just wanted out of it. She stalled, of course. Didn't sign right away. Claimed she needed time to review everything, as if the problem wasn't spelled out in steaming Camry windows 3 Tuesdays ago. Meanwhile, I started separating my digital life. Changed passwords. Switched accounts. Unsubscribed from everything with a his and hers vibe. It felt weird, sure. Like undoing a life you thought you were building. But it also felt good, clean, quiet. And in that quiet, I started realizing how long I'd been living in a house where trusted termites. Melissa hadn't just cheated, she'd rehearsed it. Made space for it. Lied smoothly, efficiently. And now that I wasn't playing along, she didn't know what to do. Her text slowed down. The guilt campaign fizzled. And eventually, her lawyer called mine. She was ready to sign. The only thing she asked for? One last conversation. Face to face. Not to win me back, she said. Just to say things properly. We met at a little coffee shop halfway between her lawyer's office and mine. Neutral territory. She picked the place. Probably hoping the smell of baked goods and soft indie music would cushion the blow. She showed up dressed like she was going to brunch with someone she was trying to impress. Hair done, subtle makeup, that one sweater she always wore when she wanted me to think she was just being cozy. A performance in 3 acts, warm, wounded, and conveniently well lit. She sat down, gave me a small smile, the kind that used to mean something. It didn't anymore. We talked. Or more accurately, she did. About how things got complicated. About how she never stopped loving me, even while she was kissing Kyle between errands. About how she lost herself. I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't interrupt. Because I wasn't there to win anything. I'd already won, by walking away. At one point she reached across the table. Her hand hovered, like she was waiting for permission to be tender again. I didn't move. And finally, she said it. Not I'm sorry. Not I messed up. Not I understand. She said, I just wish you'd fought for us harder. That's what she left me with. Not regret. Not remorse. Resentment. As if the real betrayal was me refusing to save her from a fire she set on purpose. I stood up, left a 10 on the table for the coffee I didn't finish, and looked her in the eyes one last time. You weren't fighting for us either, I said. You were fighting for attention. And then I walked out. No drama. No hug. No dramatic turn over the shoulder. Just the clean sound of a door closing behind me. The papers were signed. Filed. Stamped. Final. And you'd think that would be the end of it, right? Clean break. No kids. No property disputes. No ongoing entanglements. I was already in a new apartment. Smaller. Quieter. Not as designed. But mine. No throw pillows I never picked. No candles with names like Coastal Rainstorm. Just peace. For the first time in years, the silence felt like something I chose instead of something I was stuck with. Then she showed up. Unannounced. Middle of a Saturday. I opened the door, and there she was, standing there with that same look she wore the day Kyle strolled into my house. Half defensive, half hopeful, like she'd practiced what she was going to say, but forgot the part where I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to talk, she said. No drama. Just closure. Funny. Closure had already come and gone. Its name was Ron the attorney, and he billed me hourly. She asked to come in. I hesitated. Then, against my better judgment, I let her. She looked around like she was trying to find signs of her old life. Something to latch onto. Some thread that said, this isn't real yet. But there was nothing. Just a couch, a TV, a coffee table, and a man who no longer needed her to explain why. She sat down. Said she was doing some deep work on herself. That she missed talking to me. That she realized I had always been steady, supportive, kind. All the adjectives people suddenly remember once they're on the outside looking in. She asked if I was seeing anyone. I told her the truth. No, I wasn't. I was seeing myself again. And honestly, that guy was way better company than the man who used to wait up wondering where his wife was at 11:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. She teared up a little. Not full crying. just misty-eyed enough to make it look like she still had access to a heart. Then came the ask. Not for another chance. Not even for friendship. But for me to tell her that she wasn't a bad person. That's what she really came for. Not forgiveness. Validation. I didn't give it to her. I just said, we all get to be the hero in our own story. But we don't get to rewrite someone else's. And I walked her to the door. She hesitated like she wanted to turn it into something. But I just stood there, calm, polite, done. Then she left. No goodbye hug. No, maybe someday. Just the soft click of the door behind her. And this time, I locked it. You always think the hardest part of a breakup, or a divorce, in my case, will be the silence. The empty rooms. The empty routines. The unused half of the bed. You brace yourself for echoes. But when Melissa left my life, for real this time, the silence wasn't harsh. It was calm. For the first couple weeks, I thought maybe I was in denial, waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the loneliness to creep in like a fog and knock me flat. But it never came. What had come? Sleep. Deep, actual sleep. The kind where you wake up and don't immediately feel like you've been emotionally tasered. I started doing small things. Stupid things. Making breakfast exactly the way I like it, without someone looking over my shoulder and suggesting I add flaxseed. Watching trash TV guilt-free. Leaving the cabinet doors open just because I could. I even took a weekend trip by myself. First time in years. Packed light. No itinerary. Just went. It was quiet, simple, beautiful. And while I was there, I had this one moment, sitting on a porch, coffee in hand, sun coming up, where I realized I didn't miss her. I missed me. The version of me that existed before all the over-explaining. Before all the double-checking. Before the playlist lies and the you're just being paranoid gaslighting. I missed the guy who liked long walks and dumb jokes and not having to decode someone else's mood like a Cold War spy. And slowly, that guy came back. No dramatic makeover. No wild bachelor phase. Just peace. The kind that creeps in after the storm, when you realize the sky's been blue this whole time. You just hadn't looked up in a while. I'm not saying I'm healed, or perfect, or ready to write a relationship advice book. But I'm steady. I'm good. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough.